This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast in which we discuss news, opinions, and ideas about comedy. I'm David Munoz, and this is
Igor Mondae here.
And today we're going to be talking about our summer shows that we did abroad in different places, from Istanbul to Croatia to Lithuania to Denmark and Germany. So, Igor, which one of those are yours?
All of them. All of them except two you've done in Istanbul, as far as I remember. And
pretty much that's it.
And all the rest you've been doing in Moscow ever since, which I think in total amount of shows, and you are abroad technically, so you've done more shows abroad. That's actually, like, I was discussing this recently, and it's a small tangent right at the beginning of the episode, but I was discussing this recently, I think with Oleg, our friend that we had on the last episode, and a comedian, that I was writing somewhere, I think for my application for Fringe or for the Melbourne Comedy Festival or something, that I'm the most internationally experienced Croatian comedian. But then we also kind of came on the question of Peja Bajovic, also like a good friend of ours, and I did some of his shows this summer, which I will talk about. And he's done a lot of like festivals and some competitions and stuff. But then, like basically all the shows I've ever done were international because they were all abroad. So like I've done comedy for 9 years or whatever, 8 years in Moscow, and they were all abroad, and they were all in a foreign language to a foreign audience. So I've done like, I think 98% of my shows were international shows. So literally,
That's a fair point. And if I think about it, only my very first show I performed in Australia. So really, that's the only show I did at home. Everything else has been abroad, international.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you kind of go, okay, but you also got Spanish, citizenship. So, okay, that's one show in Spain as well. I've done 2 shows, one in each country that I have my nationalities with, and that's it. Everything else, absolutely everything, is abroad. You're right.
Yeah, but
God, we are internationally stacked.
International as fuck, boy. But not as a fuck boy, but just as fuck, boy. But yeah, and then also, like, I mean, you do shows in Spanish here and there as well, but I've done one open mic in Croatian, one in my life. So that's actually 2. I'm lying. I've done 2 open mics in Croatian, and I've done in total maybe like 5 or 6 shows in Croatia. So most of them were in English because they were parts of some like European tours or something I was doing, or opening for some other like comics in Croatia or something like this. And then actually I've done more than 5. I've done around 10, but only 2 of those were in Croatian. So yeah, and that's, even if it's like 10 shows in Croatia, that's just 10 out of, I counted recently how many shows I did approximately, and it's something around 500 maybe more. So yeah, I'm fully international. So we can count all of your Moscow shows as international summer shows or whatever, like recent autumn shows as well. So yeah, starting
on a technicality.
Well,
on a technicality, we're awesome.
Kind of not, like you're not a resident, you're not a citizen, you're not nothing. You're a foreigner in a foreign country. So, and you're nothing.
I am.
Especially because you are still in Russia. That means you're nothing times 2. So you're a foreign agent.
Yeah, and luckily I am not a citizen, so yeehaw.
Yeah. So yeah, starting with mine. So firstly, and we talked about this a few episodes ago when we talked about like getting rusty and is it like riding a bike and you forget how to do comedy. So before this first summer show I did, which was in Zagreb in Croatia with Peja, our friend, I haven't done stand-up since April, 9th of April. I did a solo show, and that was like an hour and a half, something like this, fully like hosted and everything by me. There was no opener, no nothing. So it was like a full special. And then after that, I haven't done anything for May, June, July till August, like 4 months, right? I haven't done anything for 4 months. Right. And then I was going to Fringe for 2 weeks. And before that, I had a chance to schedule a few shows. First batch was 2 shows in a row, like Saturday and Sunday, that were done by Peja as a part of his 2-week run of his Balkan Brain show in English. So Peja Bajovic, also very interesting comedian, one of the earliest and first stand-up comedians on the Balkans, like ex-Yugoslavian whole kind of area, and he tours and performs a lot like in these countries, Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Montenegro, and so on, but also abroad. Like currently he's on tour as well, doing, like, if I'm not mistaken, Iceland, Ireland, UK, Portugal, Spain, something like. He's doing a bunch of European countries as well. He's trying to catch my record of being the most international Croatian comedian. Keep trying, Peja. But so during summer he was doing his own little fringe thing, where he found like a nice little basement of a very popular local kind of cult bar, and for 2 weeks straight he was doing his show every day at 8 p.m. there, and it's a place that can hold maybe like 30-35 people. Sometimes he would get 35, sometimes he would get 5, 7 if it's like Wednesday or something, Tuesday. But he was doing the proper like kind of flyering on the streets, trying to get people in every day, and it was mostly foreigners, tourists, etc. So I was doing Saturday and Sunday. Saturday was really scary because up until that point I haven't done stand-up for 4 months, and now it was like, with this kind of experienced, a bit older, like comic that, I don't want to, and he invited me to be a guest to open for like 15-20 minutes to open for his show, and I don't want to be shit, but I am rusty. And it was a really good, like, the crowd was really big, maybe like 25-30 people. It wasn't like packed, but it was, full. That place was kind of full, and mostly it was kind of older native speaking tourists. So like there was 2 Scottish couples, 2 British couples, 1 group of Australian tourists, and this kind of like, and it was a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, I did okay. I think I struggled a bit in the beginning, especially to catch that, I don't know, how would you call that, what is that, when you come on stage and you have some like oomph, like
the vibe, the zone,
like, you come and you're like, well, now you listen to me, like, and they know, okay, we should listen to him, like kind of to just capture them, to, I think I lost a bit of that.
Captivate.
Yeah. Plus probably a little bit of confidence as well, because I haven't done it in a while. Plus forgot the jokes a bit, and like the timing and the pauses and
so you basically just look like the cleaner who just walked up on stage and just started talking, really, and they were just like, who is this guy? Why is he yakking to? Oh shit, is he trying to do jokes?
Yeah, except I did have jokes. Yeah, I did have like punchlines too. It wasn't, I wasn't just like, rambling on about cleaning and how my job is hard as a cleaner. I did have my like hard-hitting jokes, and I did my kind of 15 minutes, I think, of tightest material just to impress everybody. But still, it was a bit of a struggle. And then the next day, Sunday, it was a bit less people, but people were like younger and like more like groups, not just couples and stuff like this. And the vibe was way more like chill. I don't know, like it was like a much better vibe. And I did much better. I did different jokes, not those like what I consider my strongest club set or whatever. I did some different jokes. I experimented a bit. I did a bit of crowd work. I bantered with people, and it went over much better. And I was more satisfied. And people came up to me after the show like, "Wow, that was really nice. Like, do you perform here regularly? Can we see you somewhere?" Because many of those people, they weren't all tourists. They were like expats who live in Croatia, in Zagreb and stuff. Because there is a lot of like digital nomads here. We have this like digital nomad visa and some benefits for people when they're like paying taxes and all this kind of stuff as digital nomads. So a lot of people who now work online due to COVID or whatever reason, they've been moving recently a lot, like from places that are very expensive, like from Norway, from Belgium, from Iceland, etc. I met people that now live in Croatia. But yeah, those were the first 2. And then 5 days after that, I was doing a solo show, like a full hour in Vilnius. For the first time. Like, I've been to Vilnius before, but I haven't performed there. I performed in other like Baltic countries, in Riga, in Tallinn twice, I think, but never in Vilnius. And that was also a bit kind of because, to do your strong club set and do 15, that's one thing. And I was there, I was an opener. So even if I did like not so great, there was, the proper act that was coming after me and doing the show. So
you had the safety net. You had the proper, like, not even backup. He's the main guy. So really, you're the warm up. And if you don't quite warm up, then it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I could kill and make the job really easy for him, or I could do okay, and then he would just do his show as he would do if I wasn't there. So like it's I wouldn't like ruin it. I mean, I wouldn't be like cringe horrible that people kind of stand up and leave. So, I wasn't afraid of that. But this time I had to really kind of carry the whole show on my own, because it was, I mean, not the whole show. There was the host and the warm-up guy that organizes these shows in Vilnius, Ben, a really nice guy as well, quite funny. Not doing it for very long, maybe like for 6 months or something, but really good for that kind of level and that experience. Yeah. So he warmed up. Okay, he did well, like his jokes did well. I think the hosting needs a bit more work, and that's probably because he hosts like 1-2 shows a month for only 6 months or something. So I mean, I see really good potential in him. He's a very funny guy. He just lacked a bit of like structure or format. So, but yeah, and then I came out, and it went, I think first like 5, 10, 15 minutes went really well, but then I think I also forgot how to like keep that audience, and in the middle it went a bit like down, the energy and the interest and stuff. And I brought it back near the end, but it wasn't like the greatest hour of comedy you would see. So yeah.
Well, also the other thing is, I mean, to be honest about ourselves, we really don't have that much experience with long 1-hour shows. I mean, we rarely did them as specials for ourselves. You did one before you left as your greatest hits compilation sort of stuff, but that's what they are to us. They're greatest hits compilations. We're like, okay, I'm going to do this bit, then that bit, then followed by that, and it's different than, for example, a special that you might see of some comedian like Bill Burr or Jim Gaffigan or whatever, where they usually, it's a show. It's a 1-hour show.
Funny, yes.
Well, that too. But, they're structured around an idea or a theme for that special. You know what I mean? Like, they're surrounding a concept usually or something like that. That, even if you go on weird tangents, there's a central theme that they come back to that that you're playing around with, that you're presenting. So in a way, we really don't have that much experience in doing that sort of thing. I mean, I would say you're probably the one that has, you and Oleg would have the most experience, because now you've both done the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where you do have like a proper show sort of stuff. But you were part of the Fringe, you were part of a showcase.
The feature show, so I was doing like either hosting or headlining like a lineup show, right? I didn't do a solo like he did, and it was his fourth solo show. So I think that's how you really make those like shows, when you have not just a compilation of all of your jokes, but a show that's like one whole thing, starting from the end, middle, beginning, middle, and end. So,
and you structure it a certain way. I mean, it's a different sort of style completely. It's one where you think of a beginning, a middle, an end. In the middle you might have ups and downs, and you kind of account that yes, this is going to be a slight lull period. It's going to be funny with jokes in it, of course, but it's it's going to change gears. Like, here I change it so it doesn't become too much for the audience. It gives the audience a moment to breathe, or it gives the audience a moment to like relax between, or clear, like, okay, this part's over, now we're moving on to the next section, like structure. So I think the thing is, the way we've done any of these big shows, I mean, the only one I've really done, I think, would be Kutsk, which was about 45 minutes or so. And for me, it was at that point, I'd only been doing it for a couple of years or whatever. So it was greatest hits up to that moment. A lot of it was centered around Australia. So there was like a theme, the difference, the typical expat stuff that I was doing. So it was, so it was a different sort of thing. I don't think, I've never had to do, well, actually, except for the very first show I ever did, which also I based on the idea of a special. So I kind of did do 30 minutes, but it was my first ever show, and I structured around a common theme and idea. But so how would you find, now that you've done one of these shows, what was it like for you, sort of thing?
Well, it is, like you say, it was a compilation and a mashup of good tens. It's like 10 good tens in a row that makes a show. So it's not like a show that was written to be a show, because in those shows then you can do what you said, like you can plan where you're trying to like bring the audience down a bit, to then surprise them and bring them back up, to have that like dip in, to have that emotional part. You can write callbacks to your jokes, which you cannot if you just wrote like 20 best jokes in a row and that's your hour, because those are all unrelated independent jokes, or like chunks of, okay, I have a bit about, I don't know, traveling, a bit about dating, a bit about being an ex, but they will not go back to each other. If they were written as one, like as one show, then each joke could reference another joke, etc. So I've done a few of those. I've done one like this year, just before I left Moscow, the 1 hour 25 minutes one that I've done. I've done one in St. Petersburg on the festival, 2019 SPB Stand-Up Fest, whatever it was called. So I did my solo there for like 50 minutes, I think it was the slot, like on Fringe kind of thing. And then I've done 2 more in Moscow, like one, I think maybe 2018 or something, my whole like hour, and once before that as well. So I've done it only 4 times basically before this one, but I've done it mostly in like controlled environment, basically in Moscow, where people that know me and would like my style, would like my jokes, would come and see me, and you know, it was kind of targeted to the right people that I knew would enjoy that humor and those jokes. And this was the first time that I was doing that like compilation of all of my best jokes abroad to some audience that's never seen me. They don't know what to expect. So yeah, it was essentially, you know, a compilation show. It wasn't like a show that had some, you know, one message, one structure, references, callbacks or whatever. No, it was just, you know, bit after bit. That's it. And some bits landed better and some bits landed less, and some bits were dragging a bit and some bits were snappier. You know, that's just, I have a bit where it's mostly like one-liners, and then I have some story that I tell for 5 minutes, and that's how you make a compilation show. So for what it was, I think he got a pretty good response. Also, it was like a Friday. It was some kind of in Lithuania that weekend was like a long weekend. There was some holiday that they had. Apparently, people just left the city because it was August and summer and everything, and people left to like countryside.
Because they heard your show was going to be on, and they were like, "Fuck that! I'm getting out of here.
I'm not staying in the city for this." So yeah, and the place is really cool. I recommend, if there are any like comedians listening or anything and are traveling around Europe, to basically reach out to Ben and to do a show there if possible. The place is really nice. The venue is really nice. The guy is really great. It's weird. It's a venue that's on a train station. So basically you would think that you would hear trains constantly, but you don't for some weird reason. But it's like right on the train tracks. You leave the place, you exit the door, and there is a train track. Not one, but like 50, because it's a train station and like hub. But yeah, I don't know. But it's a really nice place. The only thing is like we had a problem finding it, because I was going there with a colleague from work who was coming to attend the show, and we were trying to find the place, and we didn't imagine that it's on the actual train, on the platform kind of thing. So we came to the building that the map was showing, and the only thing that was in that building was a casino and like a betting thing, like sports betting, whatever. So we enter, and everyone, I think it's like some casino or something for like locals and drunkards, like I don't know, it's kind of, they were like, I don't know, 15, 20, 50-year-old guys in like leather jackets, bald heads, you know, and like a 55-year-old woman, Soviet woman, probably called like, I don't know, Sveta or something, working at the desk thingy at the cash register, whatever. So we enter and everyone looks at us like, what the fuck, who are you and what are you doing here? So we approach the woman and we're like, hello, do you speak English? And the woman is like, no, little English, no, what want, what, no. And I'm like, sorry, do you know lineup bar, do you know where is lineup bar? And one guy from the corner just turns around and says, Uzbekistan. And I'm like,
what?
I don't think it's in Uzbekistan, brother. But like, and I'm like, okay, no. So I asked the woman one more time, line up bar, and I'm showing her on the map like that it's supposed to be somewhere in that building. Line up bar, do you know this bar? And the guy goes once more, but kind of, you know, in this determined voice, like, Uzbekistan, like I've told you already. And I'm like, yeah, I still don't think it's in Uzbekistan, but thank you for your input. And then we just turned around and left, because we were like, okay, we're gonna get beaten up. They think we're from Uzbekistan or something. I don't know what was going on. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, that's thanks for playing the game, dude. But no, that's not the winning answer. Very bizarre. And you never figured out what the whole Uzbekistan thing was?
I don't know what he thought we were asking. I don't know, was he shouting at us, or maybe maybe he was telling her what to like bet on next or something, like I don't know. But just in the middle of this interaction with her, when we were asking and showing the map, he like twice kind of without any context shouted like Uzbekistan. And we were like, okay, fine, Uzbekistan.
Fair enough.
Uzbekistan
So-
it is.
All right, so to get in contact with this Ben guy, how did you do it? Like, how did you find? So if anyone out there wants to go to Vilnius and perform, how do you find Ben?
Well, basically the same way I found all the people that I've ever asked for like a show or to help me organize something. Like when I did Prague, when I did Budapest, when I did Vienna, when we did like Belgrade and Ljubljana and all the other places that we did, like the first 3 tours, European tours that I've been on with some other comics. It was like fully produced, let's call it produced, organized by me. So basically, Bratislava, where else were we? Krakow, Wrocław in Poland. Yeah, basically, like I find whoever is doing English stand-up in that city. And in Vilnius, it only appeared, I think, in February or March this year. As I said, like this guy is not there for long. So he just started recently. And I found this on Google or on Facebook or somewhere that they're doing like once a month, twice a month in this lineup bar. And I was like, okay, who's running this? You know, and I found the guy that's running it.
So Ben at Lineup Bar, if you type that into Facebook, maybe you might get a hit. You might get the link or something. Contact.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't want to, you know, like, shout out the guy's name so he would be spammed with requests. But please, I'm an open micer. I did 5 shows in my life. Can I have a show in Vilnius? I think if someone wants to find him, they'll find him and organize something. But yeah, it's a really nice place and I would recommend it. I can't say I really killed that show. I did do my best, but it was also after I was there actually on kind of a business trip with my work. And we had like a 5-day company retreat thing where every day we did some company activities and whatever. And then also in the end, like hang out and chill and drink and eat and whatever. And the night before that, on Thursday, we had a big party till like 4 a.m. And I was DJing that party in like a club and obviously had a bit too much to drink, which means that on Friday, it was already after 7 days of traveling, 5 days of that retreat thing, which was quite exhausting emotionally and physically, and then after also an all-night party. So I was a bit down on energy and stuff as well. Like it's completely my fault. Like I don't think that it's quite unprofessional to book yourself a show and then come, let's say, tired, but I did come a bit tired, you know. It was just and then after that, the next day I flew to Fringe, so to Edinburgh.
But do you think it was a good warm-up then? It was still a good warm-up?
No, it was fine. The only problem I think was, as I said, the hosting kind of was a little bit not structured. Let's call it like that, because he was like, "Hello guys, hey, hello guys, sit down. Yes, hello." So I recently went a bit into material and then did a bit of like admin and housekeeping. Just so we are doing shows here and we have a special guest tonight. Here he is, something like this, without a lot of like, you know, hype or energy or something. It was a bit, but I mean, I don't kind of hold it against him or something. And, you know, I think it's much better that I hosted after like 6 months and 8 shows that I've hosted in my life. So,
yeah. All right, fair enough. Then, like you said, you then went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where obviously you got a lot of practice in, and you went through those, and we've discussed that with the previous podcast episodes. Now, after Edinburgh Fringe, you then went to Copenhagen, Denmark?
Yeah, but wait, before that, I think you went to Turkey.
Well, yes.
So let's do it chronologically. When did you go to Turkey? Do you remember?
I went in... Oh, Jesus Christ. Was it July, August? Something like that?
I don't know.
August,
I wasn't there with you. Why are you asking me?
I think something like that. Well,
let's say
sure.
that was between my Vilnius and the next show. So let's talk a bit about your experience in Istanbul. How did that come about? Who did you perform with? How were the shows? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, how did that come about? Yeah. How did that come about? Well, quite literally, we were, after spending some time in Olu Deniz and other places, Bodrum, I think the name of the other one, we finally ended up Istanbul before coming back to Moscow. I was doing like 3 or 4 days in Istanbul or whatever. And we left the hotel, we went to an art shop. We saw an art shop on the street, which my wife went into. She bought some stuff, and because she had this stuff with her, we didn't want to carry it around the whole time. We just arrived, we were tired, but you know, we were like, oh, we don't want to carry this around. So we went back to the hotel room to drop it off. And while I was in there, I thought, I'll just see if there's any English stand-up. So I literally did I think a Facebook search or Instagram, I can't remember, and I found Stand Up Turkey. So Stand Up Turkey, if you look on Instagram, you can find it there. They do shows in English, and they do shows also now in Russian. They have some Russian shows, and of course in some Turkish shows and stuff like that. But anyway, and we figured out, because I thought, it's, by the time, because it was already later in the afternoon, like, nah, we're going to miss it. It was like 1 hour or something, or was the show 1 hour away. So instead, we ended up, but I realized it was literally up the street. So it was in the same suburb that I was already in, and up the street. So we kind of raced out. So we thought, stuff it, we got time. So we went there. We arrived. I mean, it only took us probably 15 minutes to get there, so we still had to wait around. It was a bit hard to find because it was in like it seemed like an apartment building, but then they had like this floor where it was kind of like there was a homemade bar in a way, and the living room had been converted into like, it was like rooms or something. I don't know. It was a very DIY, sort of place. And the room was just some fold-out chairs, and they had like a little stage with some curtain in the background and stuff. But it was cool. It was interesting.
Was it like an open mic, or was it like a feature?
It was
open mic?
It was an open mic. Mm-hmm. Open mic. And when I arrived there, I met also a lot of Russians. About a third of the performers were Russians who had left Russia. So they were quite happy to see. So actually, I had one guy go, "Wait, I know you. You're the guy who's of Spanish background but grew up in Australia." I was like, holy shit. And he's like, "I've seen you perform. You're good." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." So there were a few of them like that. Same things, people in the audience, some of them had already seen me. They're like, "Oh, I've seen you around, blah, blah, blah." So that was kind of interesting and cool. So I did the show. The guy who organized it, nice guy, very friendly. It was unfortunate, like I said, I was like, I wish I'd kind of thought about this sooner, because maybe we could have done a show. And he's like, "Well, next time you're in Istanbul, you totally can." I was like, okay. And then I met some Italian comedians and stuff like that who were really cool, really nice guys. Hey, guys. Luciano. And his name, Federico, I want to say. Anyway, so they took us out to dinner that night and everything. And they also told us of another stand-up group as well. It seems to be a bit of a rivalry, which always seems to be the way. What is it with stand-up groups having in rivalries with each other? It's like, can we all be friends? Anyway, so this other one was called Tuz Bieber stand-up, which is strange because I'm like, what's this got to do with Justin Bieber and where's the Tuz? But as you said, you looked it up in Turkish. Tuz Bieber means salt and pepper or something. So a couple of days, they said like in 2 days, like in Tuesday. So that was like, I think I had a Sunday show, and then they said on Tuesday there's going to be this. Oh no, it was a Saturday, and then on Tuesday or Monday there was going to be this show. This one seems to be a bit like it's a nascent group. I think it's a new group sort of thing. I believe Murat was the guy who was organizing this one, and he was at a pub. This one was at a different, like, it was an actual bar, like an actual pub, and they'd given him like a private room upstairs on the second floor or something, with its own like glass door that closed, like sliding glass door, automated, and it was like, ooh, fancy. So we got let in there. We did our show. Very nice venue, but very small crowd. By then it was 6 people who watched the show. Two of them being my wife and former colleague, friend of mine as well. Dasha was there. So, and then 4 other women. So it was literally, we performed to 6 women, and the rest of us were comedians. So there was about 4 of us.
How many people were at the other show?
The other one was more mixed. I would say there's more people there. There was about, I don't know, 15, 20 people maybe sitting in the room. Maybe, yeah. Probably closer to 15. And there was like a mix. You could see there were some Russians, some Turkish people, some expats there as well. So that was a bit more mixed and a bit bigger group sort of thing. So it was really cool. It was interesting. It was funny to hear Turkish people making jokes about censorship and stuff. And then I'm like, I even used it for a bit when I came back to Russia. Like, I was listening to them talking about like how it was like, you have to be careful what you say and this and that. And they were making jokes about that. And I was like, sucks to be you. Well, I'm off back to Russia. Ciao. So that was kind of funny. And it was interesting, like the similar sort of jokes to do with that. I'm like, you could really just, you could easily transpose that over. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And also Russians making jokes about the situation that currently, because they're in Istanbul, they could make certain jokes that even I was like, ooh, that's going dark. So that was interesting. So yeah, so that was it was a good show. I hadn't done it outside of Russia for a long time, so it was great. It was full of energy. You know, you get that feeling when you're traveling. You know, you're pumped up, and because of a new venue and everything like that, you're like bouncing practically off the walls. I may have had a little bit too much to drink on the second show, I think, before performing, so I was pretty buzzed by that as well. But it went well. I didn't mess it up. So, but it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so I would really like, if you go to Istanbul, there's two different things, Stand Up Turkey and Tuz Biber Stand Up. Check it out. Go to the shows, and if you want to perform, definitely apply with them. They're both very nice guys, and they're very supportive, sort of thing. So yeah, it was cool.
I'm actually planning to go. Yeah, as we chatted previously when we just had our little catch up chat, because we don't see each other or talk like every day, so we have to update each other on some stuff. And I was saying that I am planning on going to Istanbul maybe this month already or quite soon.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do a show with one of them, maybe with both of them. If one can sort out like a solo show for me and another can give me a spot on some like showcase or something, would be amazing to do. But yeah, what would you say, like, since you've done 2 open mics and you had a chance to see other comics performing there, like, how's the scene? How are the other comics? Are they like locals? Are they expats, foreigners, English speakers? What's the level?
Well, I would say, well, it was a mix, like I said before. So there were some Turkish performers, a couple of them, quite a few Russians who obviously have, moved to Istanbul and are living there. Yeah, emigrated for the time being there, and they were doing, and there's enough of them, and there's enough Russians who go to watch the show that they even have their own, like, they were even doing, apparently the next day there was going to be a show, on Sunday there was going to be a show in Russian, so they have their own open mic in Russian, with some kind of well-known established Russian comedians, sort of thing. So that is there. I would say it's still kind of beginnery sort of style. You can see there's still it's a little bit rough in some ways, and like when I was doing the second show, that was the first time at that venue, and they were seeing how it was. So apparently I made a good impression, because one of the barmaids, she kind of hung around for the whole show, even though her English wasn't great, she obviously understood. And like after the show, he disappeared because we were having drinks, and then he disappeared for about 10-15 minutes. And when he came back, he was in a good mood, and I was like, how'd it go? And he went, oh great, they're going to let us continue here. So you can see it's a very early times for a lot of these kind of shows, and so you can tell like the comedy it sort of reminds me of our earlier days, more Jim and Jack sort of back in those days, when some of them obviously have a bit more experience, but quite a few of them are quite, they're beginners and they have their material. But it's good. It's I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think, if they keep going, they'll eventually get better and better, like anywhere, But it's good.
Yeah, I'm interested because I'm kind of thinking of going, as I said, but also just to see how does the English scene look now, and how is it developing in a different foreign country. Because I was shocked, actually.
Remind me of our early days.
All right, yeah, that makes sense if it's their early days. So yeah, it's then would be a good like parallel to what we were doing, I guess. But
alrighty,
right. So yeah, I was actually a bit surprised that in Copenhagen there is still no regular like weekend comedy in English, like some kind of local shows by local comics. I did manage to find and get on 2 open mics 2 days in a row, like Tuesday, Wednesday. They have 2 open mics, and they have some weekend shows here and there, but they are like traveling comedians that organize the shows, like we did in 2020, like early 2020, when we did the Bear With Me tour. Oleg Denisov, Al Weinstein, and myself, we did Copenhagen as well, and there is this bar, No Stress bar, that has like a room for comedy, let's call it like that. But it's kind of, if you arrange a show with them, then there is a show, but there is no like regular thing that's happening with some locals, as far as I could find, except these 2 open mics. So basically, one open mic, the Wednesday one, the second one, I actually found the guy that organizes it and messaged him beforehand, and I was like, can I get a spot? And he was like, I'm not sure it's gonna happen because we just started the new season. It was like mid September or something, and people just came back for like uni and after vacations and summer holidays and stuff. And he was like, it could be, I don't know, like 3 audience members and we cancel it. But, drop by, and if there is a show, you're in. Okay. And then the other one I found actually on the airport when I had my layover flight just before Copenhagen. And I found like, shit, there's an open mic tonight. And it started at 7 and my plane landed at 6:30. Something like this. But then my plane was delayed and it landed at 6:40, 45. Then it took me, 15, 20 minutes to go through the customs and something like 30 something minutes to get to the center. And then like 10, 15 more minutes to get to the hotel. And then 10, 15 minutes to check into the hotel. So by the time I was ready to go, it was something like 8, maybe 10 to 8, I don't know. And the show was supposed to start at 7. So I was thinking, I don't know, is there a point even going? But it was something like 3 metro stations away, and I had nothing else to do. I was just first evening in Copenhagen, and I'm like, screw it, I'll go, and if the show is over, I'll just have a drink in the city or in that bar, or just maybe meet some comics or whatever. And I come there, and they're just starting the second half. So they had a break, and they had a lot of comics, like 12 or something. So it was quite long, the show. It probably didn't start at 7 and so on. So it was like a small bar, and maybe like 15 to 20 audience members and something like 12 comics. I only caught like I think 3 or 4 before me, and then there was I think 1 more after me, or even 2 more, I don't remember. But they were pretty good. The host was very like nice, very approachable, very friendly, and the lineup as well. Like I didn't know who's running it, who's hosting it, or anything. I just found it on Facebook like that afternoon. So I came and I checked, I looked around, I saw someone like writing something on a piece of paper. I'm like, are you a comedian? You look like you could be a comedian. And the guy is like, yes, I am. Well, like, why? And I'm like, I'm also a comedian. Who do I ask for a spot? And he's like, ask that girl over there. And I'm like, okay, that girl. I go to that girl and I'm like, are you the host? She's like, no, not me, the other girl. I'm like, okay, the other girl. I don't know who is who. I think he said like, ask Louisa or something. I'm like, I don't know who that is. So I finally tracked down the host and I'm like, hey, like I just flew in, but so I didn't like, give you any notice or anything, sign up in advance, but can I do a spot? Like, I don't know, 3-5 minutes, whatever, it's enough. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll put you like in 3 comics. So in the meantime, I had 2 drinks because I rushed so much there and I was like tired and kind of as well. And I had like 2 beers to kind of chill a bit. And then she goes, and our next comedian is so brave. He just came through the door and asked me to sign him up. I think it's his first time performing, but he rushed here to perform. And she like hyped me up as, like kind of give him a big warm applause. Such a brave boy. And I'm like, I came on stage and I'm like, I'm doing this for 8 years. Like a year ago, I was doing a show in Copenhagen for like 100 something people. That was a paid show. And now I'm doing an open mic for 15 people. And you're like, oh, such a brave boy. But yeah, and then she was like, really? Are you like good? And I'm like, well, let's see, am I good? I'm experienced, but and I think she
experienced at bumming.
Yeah I think she gave me 5 and I did something like 15 because I did 5 and I was like, and I didn't want to like overstep or something. I did 5 and I was like, am I done? And she was like, no, keep going, like you're a guest and you're doing well and people are enjoying it, like keep going. So I did maybe not 15 but definitely like 11, 12. And it went really, really well. I was really enjoying myself and the audience was really happy with it and stuff. So I was glad that I rushed there. Then the next day, the open mic was a bit more stiff. Like, I don't know. And it was one of those, I don't know. It was some same comics and they were good. The host was very experienced, very good as well, a British guy. The audience wasn't like 2-3 people, as he said. It was actually maybe 30 people, 35. Like it really filled up.
Not bad.
But the show was also good, but it was this kind of weird vibe. And there were several like guest comics. There was this comic that I've seen on Fringe as well, and he's traveling around Europe. He's Irish. He's really, really good, really experienced, like doing this for 10, 15 years or something. Really good. He was passing through Copenhagen and did a spot. There was this guy that I thought it's some kind of weird open micer. Like he was kind of sitting and rewriting stuff, and he was like quite kind of awkward and nervous and like sweating before going on stage. And then he goes on stage and like absolutely kills it. Like the man didn't miss a beat. And I was like, what? How is this guy so good? So I'm like, what was this guy's name? And they tell me his name. I can't remember now. And I check who that is. Apparently, it's one of like top 3 Danish comics, and he was on like Danish version of Taskmaster and like a bunch of like the Danish stand-up shows and stuff. And apparently, he's like a star in Denmark. Like, you know, if you see him on the street, people will be like, "Oh my God, it's that guy from TV." And I was like, you know, who that? So yeah, it was a bit like the show was a bit more. And I also decided to go with different material. Like on the first one, I went with some like stronger, with some new stuff that came up on the way, and some stronger stuff that I could mix into that new stuff, and it worked really well. On the second one, I was like, well, it's an open mic, let's try some stuff. So I had some ideas I never really finished. I had some jokes that never really landed properly, and I had some jokes that I was trying out during Fringe, and I got them to a certain level, but they weren't like done jokes yet. So I was like, okay, I'll do a set with those. And it went fine. Like, I didn't kill, I didn't bomb. It was like, it got laughs, it got chuckles, got a solid response. So yeah. And then after that, I flew to Berlin to do shows of Oleg, our friend who moved to Berlin recently, who is organizing shows there. And he put on like a solo show for me as well. But that was the first time they did a solo show. And after that, there was a lineup, like a feature show. So I did a solo show, and then I headlined the feature show. The solo show was sadly attended only by like 6 people, I think, because it was 6 p.m. It was still, again, like daylight and everything, very nice, like autumn day, beautiful autumn day. And it was only the second week of them running those shows. So it wasn't really that popular on like Facebook or Instagram, or people just didn't know about the show. On the feature show, it was full. Actually, more people came out. It wasn't like packed that, you know, there was person on person, but it was full, like all chairs were taken and stuff. And it was a really good show. And it's one of those things that, you know, when you see Berlin comics that just, because there is, I think, Sunday evening in Berlin, you can do like 5 shows in English or something like this. So they come, they show up, sometimes don't like take off their jacket or backpack or anything. They just show up. Is it my turn? Okay, I'll go. Show up, go to the microphone, kill their 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever they have, like absolutely kill it. You know, like it's some kind of, you know, like performance for America's Got Talent or something. But no, it's just, you know, it's not an open mic, but it's not some kind of, you know, high profile show. And they do like 5 of those in the evening. Just come, show up, kill with their like tight 10, and then like, thank you so much for having me. Goodbye. And he's off to the next one. But it was like a really good show, and I really enjoyed it. I closed that one and did really well. And it's always nice to know that, you know, all your jokes, especially some newer jokes, work also in different countries, in a mix of different comics with different experiences. And yeah, it was very satisfactory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the main thing for us, sort of, because we have performed most of our sets, you know, we created them here in Russia, where I still am. And you kind of worry, because you start worrying, like, is it too culturally specific? Or is it maybe sense of humor? Like, you know, is it stuff that if you go overseas, all of a sudden they're like, that's not funny. Why is that funny? All you did was just, you know, use certain words, and what do you do? And you just kind of worry about that.
That's why I think it's important to do those shows in many different places. And I remember, I think one of our comics, Matthew, was telling me, I'm not sure that was him, but I think, because he did some shows abroad as well, like this summer and etc., that there was a place where he went and he did a set. Was it in Spain? Was it in France? Maybe he's French. Was it? I don't remember where it was, but he went somewhere, did his set, and people were looking at him like kind of silent and just like, what are you talking about? You know, like just kind of, it didn't fly at all. Like it just went over their heads. Was it unrelatable? Was it like, you know, something that they couldn't, was it maybe the jokes that they couldn't understand because it was something about the local weather, the local metro, the local something that they don't have there? I don't know. But it also, you can see it from the other kind of point of view, because this one of the second Copenhagen open mic, a lot of people did a lot of local stuff. And just watching the whole show, because I had nothing to do, it was like Wednesday evening, so I stayed for the whole show. Just watching the whole show, you know, like, and then someone comes on stage and they're like an expat that lives in Denmark says, Danish bread this, Danish bread that, Danish, like 5 minutes about Danish bread. And I see why it could be funny, but I don't understand it because I don't know what the big deal with Danish bread is, because I don't live there and it's not a thing that I can understand. So it really kind of got me thinking, actually, that
you don't know about Danish bread? How do you not know about Danish bread, Igor? My lord!
Well, apparently, and also the Danish kind of what I guess Brits call Danish pastry or whatever it is, that's not real Danish bread, but Danish bread is like a specific thing, like a very dark rye bread, whatever. Anyways, but yeah, it was like a whole set about that. And while like I can assume what the joke is based on what I know about bread in general, I can't really relate to this joke about Danish bread from a specific Danish shop that they buy. So, and then you start thinking like, how many of those jokes did I tell, I don't know, in Moscow or in Croatia or something, that are very niche to that place? And then if there are some tourists, if there are some travelers, people who don't live there, can they really get this? Like, is it something that they can, laugh at?
Yeah.
So I think it's good to perform abroad and do those shows, because it gives you that additional perspective, both as a comic and as an audience member, how hard it is to laugh at something you don't relate to or don't know or don't understand, and then also how to write your set in such way to avoid those things.
Yeah. Or you can lean into it and just be very aware of the fact that, okay, this joke works, for example, in Denmark. This one works in Russia. This one works in Croatia. This one works specifically in, Turkey, Istanbul or something, it allows you to be able to change. Because actually, speaking to Matthew the other day, he was also talking about how there's a joke that he used in France that now he uses in Russia, and he just has to change one or two little things in it, because the idea behind it works anywhere. It's the actual wording that he just has to change, like the comparative or whatever. But he's like, all I have to do is change that, and it just works anywhere. So in that way, he also allows him to create more adaptable jokes, I think. That's also something that can help you create that sort of stuff. I remember seeing Danny Boy, the comedian, his special that he did in Sydney, like at the Sydney Opera House. He has this long special, and then I remember hearing the same jokes, but he was performing them, I think, either in Canada or in some other place, and he had obviously used the same jokes, but he was changing, instead of saying, oh, you Australians, it was, oh, you Canadians, blah, blah, blah. And then he just changed one or two things, and I was like, and actually it was really strange, because I'm like, motherfucker, you just, I thought you liked Australians, you bastard. You're just a whore. You're just a slut. You'll say that to anyone just to get a laugh. You chuckle slut.
Well, this is, I've heard comics do this, like even when they do a tour and they travel, they have some opener, and whatever the country they're in, either if that country is the butt of the joke, then they just insert the name of that country. If some, for example, neighboring country that's, made fun of by that country, butt of the joke, then they put that, for example, like in Spain, they would say Portugal. In Portugal, they would say Spain. In like Czech, they would say Slovakia. In Czechia, in Slovakia, they would say Czechia. In Germany, they would say Austria. In Austria, they would say, this kind of stuff. Because, every country has a neighbor that they kind of make fun of or whatever. So I've heard people do this. But I've also noticed that people do, like, when you watch Jimmy Carr, for example, always on British TV, on his specials and something, he does the same joke always in the same way. Like, like he just learns those one-liners as they are, and he always tells the same joke in the same way. But then when you see him at Just for Laughs, Montreal, he would say, like, not I popped to the loo or whatever. He would say, like, I went to the toilet. Just making sure that they understand the words of the joke. And he would say not like, I don't know, I was livid, but he would say, oh, I was pissed. Like to make it more understandable and relatable to the slang and the kind of language that they use. So I think that's also kind of important to, adapt. Yeah, where you go, adapt to the place you are at. That's...
Yeah. All right. So I believe that's the end of our experiences that we went through in summer. That was our experiences of performing abroad, double abroad. Since we are abroad anyway. Well, not you anymore. I'm still performing abroad. I should have a show tonight, so I'm performing abroad again. Just a couple of stations away.
Rub it in my face, why don't you?
Well, thank you. But thank you very much for listening. We've been the Comedy Kiosk. Please follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, any one of those. Please give us feedback. and let us know what you think. Any topic ideas you want us to discuss or anything like that, we'd greatly appreciate it. I have been David Munoz.
And I'm still Igor Mondae.
And we'll catch you on the next episode. Ciao!
Goodbye.